Hare Krishna, everybody. This is Krishna Dasa. Welcome you all to today's session of Bhagavad Gita. So today we are going to cover Shlokas 67 to 72. So let me say the prayer to Guru before we start. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuru Militamena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. If you are ready, I will play these Shlokas. Okay, we are starting from 2.67.
Indriyanam hi charatam yanmanonu-vidhiyate tadasya harati prajna vayurnavamivambhasi tasmadyasya mahabaho nigruhitani sarvashah indriyani indriyarthebhyastasya prajna pratisthita yani sha sarvabhutanam tasyam jagarti samyami यस्यां जागृति भूतानि सा निशा पश्यतो मुनेः आपूर्यमाणम् अचलप्रतिष्ठम् समुद्रमापः प्रविशन्ति यद्वत् तद्वत् कामायम् प्रविशन्ति सर्वे स शान्तिमाप्नोति न कामकामी विहाय कामान्यः सर्वान् पुमांश्चरति निःस्पृहः निर्ममो निरहङ्कारः स शान्तिमधिगच्छति एषा भ्रामी स्थितिः पार्थ नैनां प्राप्य विमुह्यति स्थित्वा स्यामन्तकालेऽपि ब्रह्मनिर्वाणमृच्छति ॐ तत्सदिति श्रीमद्भगवद्गीतासु उपनिषत्सु ब्रह्मविद्यायाम् योगशास्त्रे श्रीकृष्णार्जुन संवादे सांख्य योगो नाम द्वितीयोऽध्यायः.
Hare Krishna. So as you can see from the shloka rendition, this is the conclusion of second chapter. So that is what you saw in the last, after the 72nd verse. It's a big milestone with your support. So today, Vidyaji is going to read the translations.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
2.67. The mind's focus on even a single sense can lead the intellect astray, much like how a strong wind can push a boat off its predetermined course on the water. 2.68. Therefore, O mighty armed one, his or her wisdom is established and steady, whose senses are controlled in all respects and withdrawn from the objects of senses. 2.69. That which is night to all beings, in that such a wise person wakes. That in which all beings are awake is night to the wise sage. 2.70. Just as the ocean remains steady and undisturbed by the constant flow of waters from rivers merging into it, likewise, the sage who is unmoved despite the flow of desirable objects all around him attains peace, and not the person who keeps running behind desires. 2.71. That person who is free from sensual longing, free from material desires, and without the sense of proprietorship and egoism attains perfect peace. 2.72. O Partha, such is the state of a Sthitaprajna that having attained it, one is never again deluded. Becoming established in this state, even at the hour of death, one is liberated from the cycle of life and death and reaches the supreme abode of God. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So previously we discussed the verse 76 from Viveka Chudamani, which spoke about the 5 animals. Kuranga, Matanga, Patanga, Bringa, Meena, and how each one of them has a weakness for one sense, and that leads them to their destruction. So the Krishna says that if we are a victim of even one sense, weakness for one sense, it can take away whatever little wisdom we have. It's a very strong statement. You can introspect and you will realize it yourself. So we have to strive to discipline our senses. It's very, very important. As long as the senses are not under discipline, under control, it is almost impossible for us to grow on the spiritual path or do anything meaningful there. See, that is one of the reasons why in ancient times they had so much emphasis on the diet. Because you believe it or not, most of our mind, what is going on, also depends on what we put into the body. So if you are putting a lot of tamasic things in the body, then the mind will become mischievous. Your senses will not come under control. And if the senses are not under control, then you cannot grow. So we will come back to that again, this particular topic. The key thing to understand is the Guru and God, they can help us understand the importance of controlling the senses. They can give us all the knowledge, but they cannot control our senses for us. That we have to do ourselves. Now, it is just like if somebody is hungry, you can give them food, but you cannot eat for them. Doesn't work. So that is what Krishna's message is. Krishna's message to Arjuna is the same. He says, I will give you the knowledge, but what you do with it, that is up to you. Okay. So we have to introspect and we really have to focus on our senses. Last time I asked you, which sense do you think is most predominant in you? Think about it and see if you are able to catch it being very active and being very disturbing, and if you are able to control it. Small practice every day. So he is telling Arjuna, oh mighty armed one, you are trying to control your enemies with your strength. Just like that, you have to first try and control your own mind. That's very important for victory. And then Krishna is talking about the perspectives of the ignorant and wise. In 269, Krishna says, what all beings consider as day is the night of ignorance for the wise, and what all creatures see as night is the day for the introspective sage. So Krishna is saying, Ya nisa sarva bhutanam tasyam jagrati samyami, and yasyam jagrati bhutani sa nisa pasyato mune. The word nisa means sleep or night in Sanskrit, and jagrati means awake. So Krishna is saying whatever is nisa to the ignorant person is jagrati for the saintly wise person, and vice versa. Now, what does this mean? Why is Krishna telling this to us? Because, for example, the ignorant person, they will say that the light, jagrati means money. I have to run behind money. I have to run behind material possessions. That is the true path. That is what they will think. They will swear by it. Whereas the saintly person looks at it as darkness. Saintly person says running behind material things is not the right approach. So we discussed in 2.51 to 2.53, Krishna said something similar where he said, don't let your intellect be tossed around by conflicting opinions. Instead, we have to practice samatvam and focus your mind on God and focus on analyzing and understanding what is right, what is the right action. Always do that. Don't depend on conflicting opinions of people, because Krishna says, if you are on the path, you will always face conflicting opinions. Because what is jagrati for you is going to be nisa for the other person, and vice versa. And in fact, many saints have said that whenever you are on the spiritual path, you will come across a lot of people who will think you are not on the right path. They will make fun of you. They will discourage you. So it's going to happen. So Krishna is giving us a warning right in advance that this will happen, and you have to know that that's normal. And it is up to us to not get swayed by these conflicting opinions and use your intellect to understand what is right and what is not right. See, we are not going to become a Sthitaprajna overnight, correct? It's not going to happen. And that's okay. We don't have to become a Sthitaprajna. But what is important is, are we making progress? It can be very small progress, but are we continuously making progress? Are we even 0.001% better than what we were last week? If that answer is yes, happy. That's what Krishna is saying. Be consistent, he says. Eventually you will meet the goal. So don't get discouraged. Don't give up. Just keep checking and keep making small progress, be consistently making progress. And very soon you will be sitting here and talking about your experiences and coaching others. So see, Ramakrishna, you all know who is Ramakrishna, right? He is a very great saint, very popular, very great saint. And he shares a very profound parable which teaches the importance of what we just discussed, the importance of making progress. So Ramakrishna always emphasized on making progress. And so do we have any Bengalis here apart from Suchita? Oh, banana. Yeah, we have a Bengali family there. Very good. So Banashri is also there. Nice. So in Bengali, Ramakrishna used to say, "Egiye jao," means march onward or move forward. So he used to always tell his disciples, "Egiye jao, egiye jao." So he also gives a story. So Ramakrishna tells a story to explain why he keeps telling his disciples, "Egiye jao, aage badho," keep marching. So it's a simple story, but the moral is important. So the story is about a woodcutter. The woodcutter is cutting wood in the outskirts of the forest, and he's making money, and he has the same schedule. Day in, day out, he will go outskirts of the forest, he will cut wood, he will sell it. He made enough money to feed his family, and things are going on. And then one saint passes by and he tells the woodcutter, "Egiye jao, egiye jao." And the woodcutter wonders, why should I egiye jao? I mean, I'm finding wood, I'm selling, my house is running. What is the deal, right? But he keeps ignoring him. But the saint keeps crossing the road and keeps telling him, "Egiye jao, egiye jao." And so the woodcutter gets very curious. He says, "Okay, let me try marching forward and see what happens." So the next week he goes a little further into the forest and he finds much better quality wood. So he's cutting that wood, and for the same wood, he's getting more money. And then he says, "Wow, this egiye jao was wonderful. Let me do more egiye jao." So he's like, "Let me march forward even more." So he keeps venturing into the forest more and more. And one fine day he discovers copper mine. And he makes more money. He goes egiye jao. He discovers gold. He discovers diamond. And soon he is one of the wealthiest guys in the town. And so what is the moral? Why Ramakrishna is using this story is Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. He's a Paramahamsa. So whatever he says is very meaningful, very insightful. So he's saying, just like that woodcutter, on the spiritual progress, most of the times we are on the outside of the forest. We are happy collecting driftwood and pieces of wood. He's saying, even in spiritual progress, egiye jao, keep making progress. You will start discovering yourself. You will start going deeper and deeper into your own self, and you will discover copper and gold, and eventually you will discover that diamond, which is your goal, self-realization. All you have to do, egiye jao, keep progressing. Don't get discouraged, don't stop. That is the message. We will see later on in Bhagavad Gita, I will quote, even Vivekananda said something very similar. The message has been very, very similar. Everybody says, how much progress you make is not important. How consistently you make progress is what is important. So don't give up. So like, for example, today we may find it very hard to even get up in the morning. That is our condition, right? Egiye jao, it's okay. First practice that. Once you are able to get up, then next practice thinking of God when you get up. Slowly. Okay, now I'm able to get up. Next, let me think of God when I get up. And then try to practice feeling grateful. So when you think of God, just thinking of God is the first step. The second step is I think of God and then I also feel grateful. Keep adding, right? This is how you keep making progress slowly on the spiritual path. Eventually, you will be a very spiritually evolved being where you have good habits, you're waking up, you're doing spiritual practices, you're always in a state of gratefulness. You're always thinking of God. What else do you need? Okay. But what happens when people find it difficult to get up, they give up there and they say, "Oh, this is not for me." Or 2 days they are missing, 2 days they are not able to get up, third day they get discouraged. They say, "This path is not for me." So it is for us where Krishna says, don't stop, keep progressing. That is the message. And then Krishna says, just as the ocean does not overflow with waters from rivers merging into it, likewise, the sage who is unmoved, despite the flow of desirable objects all around him, he attains peace, not the person who strives to satisfy desires. Now, this is very profound, right? I mean, oceans, every day, trillions of gallons of water from rivers, they keep entering the ocean. But the ocean doesn't have any problem managing that water or handling that water. You pour as much as you want into the ocean can take it. So Krishna is saying you should be like that. What that means is you are surrounded by so many sense objects, so many distractions. So Krishna says, but you should be like the ocean. You can't control that. You cannot say, everybody cannot go to the Himalayas and sit in a cave which is isolated from the world. That is not possible. Krishna has insisted that stay in the world, live, do your duties. Krishna has insisted that is the right way to progress. Don't try to run away to a cave. So he's saying, but be like that ocean where you are surrounded by tamasic forces, you are surrounded by distractions, you are surrounded by temptations, and you are not letting it bother you. Just like the ocean doesn't let these rivers bother it as such. Bring it on. But I'm going to be like the ocean. I'm not going to get perturbed. That is what Krishna wants us to be. In Buddhism also, Buddha has said something very similar. And he calls it bodhicitta. That is the state of mind. Okay. Bodhicitta means you are undisturbed and unperturbed. Doesn't matter what comes your way. And that is what we should strive to be. Now, earlier we saw, why are we not able to practice detachment? Anybody remembers? Why is it so hard to do your actions without attachment? It is in syllabus. Deepali, you are on mute.
Is it because of our desires? I mean, we desire it and therefore we have attachment and expectation?
Yeah, you are right. But there is one more level. Yes, Smitaji?
I don't know, I could be wrong, but is it because of our constant need for appreciation and validation whenever we do something for somebody?
Yeah, you are on the right path, but go even deeper. Why do we need appreciation?
To feel good about ourselves, or we just like to be validated in the society that we live. We like
that feeling good, what part of you is feeling good?
Ego, because of
Ego.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Ego.
So, that is the root cause. The root cause is because of ego, we are not able to practice karmanye vadika raste ma phaleshu kadachana. Nahi, we are not able to do that because the ego doesn't let you act with detachment. The ego is all about attachment. Because Smitaji said, appreciation is also attachment. We seek appreciation, we seek rewards. We stand on one leg, we want the entire world to clap. That's our ego, right? So Krishna is saying, don't get so engrossed. So it's a very beautiful differentiation. So you are also I, God is also I, but Krishna says, you are a small I, God is the big I. Your ultimate goal is the big I, but if you are so hung up on the small I, when are you going to have room for the big I? So Krishna is saying the person who lives devoid of sensual longings, free from desires. Why desire is bad? Because desire feeds the ego. It's the ego that is desiring. So Krishna says, be free from desires without the sense of I or mine. Then this person will attain peace. Very powerful. Later on, we will see another shloka where Krishna will clarify this even further. But the key is always keep a check on that I, small I, and tell yourself that, yeah, this I feels good, but the big I is going to feel million times better, and I need to reach for that big I. And for that, I need to start dropping the small I. And so the question, many people ask this question, youngsters especially. Okay, Krishna says, be steady like an ocean, that's all okay, but how do we do that? It's very difficult. So there was a king named King Yadu. You might have heard about that king. So King Yadu, basically, he is the founder of Yadav dynasty. Very lucky dynasty, I would say, because Krishna was born into that dynasty. So King Yadu was the founder. And there is a story in the Srimad Bhagavatam where King Yadu, he comes across a monk, a wandering monk. And he sees that this monk is very handsome, very tejasvi. But at the same time, he seemed very calm and very peaceful. He didn't seem to have anything with him, just some shabby clothes. But he looked strong and radiant and handsome, and at the same time peaceful, calm. Nothing seemed to bother him. So King Yadu says, this person has to be different. I mean, this is not a common person. How can he be so calm and so peaceful, right? So he asks that sage, he says, can you please tell me the secret? What is the secret of this serenity that you seem to have all the time? I mean, there is so much happening around you, like, but you don't seem to be bothered at all. Like, what is the secret? But he's asking it very humbly to the sage. In spite of being a king, he bows down to the saint and he's asking him. So the saint is very pleased with the humility. And then he says, "O king, I have taken shelter of 24 gurus." Wow. So King Yadu says, 24 gurus. Which are those gurus? So he says, those gurus are the earth, the air, the sky, water, fire, moon, sun, the pigeon, the python, the sea, the moth, the honeybee, the elephant. He goes on. The deer, the fish. And he also says the prostitute Pingala, so on and so forth. And he says, they are all my gurus. And from them, I have learned. So this feels pretty kind of intriguing, right? So Yadu says, Maharaj, but I really don't understand. How can the sky and air, how can they be a guru? Like, what are you learning from them? So then the monk goes ahead to explain. So I have not written everything down because many of them we have learnt in other shlokas already that Sri Krishna has taught us. So I'll try to summarize some of them here. But if you want the complete list, I'll share the link. I'll share the complete text as well. So what the monk says is a person, even when harassed by other living beings, should understand that the aggressors, the people who are harassing, they are also acting helplessly under the control of God. They are also victims of nature. And thus, you shouldn't let them distract you from your own progress, your own path. He says, that I have learned from the earth. See, the earth never stops you. We are so disrespectful many times towards the earth, right? And the earth pretty much supports you. Without earth, we are not going to be there. But you can see millions of people disrespecting the earth, taking it for granted. But the earth never gets disturbed by these people. So he says, that lesson I learned from the earth. Then he says, a saintly person should learn from the mountain to devote all efforts to the service of others and to make welfare of others the sole reason for their existence. Similarly, the disciple of the tree should learn to dedicate themselves to others. That's what the tree does. See, once it's a tree, you don't have to take care of a tree at all. A tree takes care of itself and then it takes care of everybody. Even if you throw a stone at a tree, it's only going to give you a fruit. So he says that should be the lesson you learn from the tree, service, that bhava. So selfless service. And then he says, a saintly person, they can carry material objects, but not get entangled in them. Very beautiful. He says that I learned from the wind. You have seen, right? When there is a strong wind, the wind can carry things around. It will carry rooftops and bottles and all of that. It can carry anything when it is heavy. But does the wind ever get entangled or stuck? It doesn't. So he says, this carrying material things but not being entangled by them, I learned from the wind. And the wise person should know that they are pure spirit soul, even when living in a physical body. He says, our soul and the super soul, they are both like the sky. Beautiful. Why like the sky? They are everywhere. But you cannot mix it. You cannot pollute the sky, and you cannot divide the sky. Have you tried dividing the sky? There is no technology. You can't divide a sky. You can divide your view of the sky, but you cannot divide the sky. He says that is the nature of the soul and the super soul. Everywhere, all pervading, indivisible. And he says a saintly person is like a water, pure, gentle. It creates pleasing sounds when speaking. And when someone hears them, they get purified, like being cleansed by water. And how does this person themselves remain pure? By constantly chanting the name of God. That is how they become like water. They are always thinking and chanting of God. So they are pure, and the people who come in their contact also get purified. And the saintly person should also be like the fire, which does not get contaminated by anything thrown at it, but rather burns away all contamination. Powerful. So you be like a person. I'm throwing abuses at you. That doesn't disturb you. You just burn away those abuses. I cannot contaminate you. I cannot corrupt you. That is the nature of fire. And he says, that's what I learned from fire. And time causes various changes to the body, but it does not affect the soul. He says, just like the moon. This I learned from the moon, because we think the moon is becoming small and becoming big, because we call it the waxing and waning of the moon. But that only changes the appearance. It doesn't actually change the moon. He says, just like that, time may change my body, but it cannot change my core self. That's the lesson I've learned from the moon. And he says, and sun, just as the sun evaporates large quantities of water and later returns the water back to earth in the form of rain, he says, just like that, a saintly person may accept material things gracefully only to return it back to everybody, sanctified and purified. You see, that is what most great saints do. Like Shirdi Sai Baba is a great example, very popular example. He used to ask for dakshina from everybody, but at the end of the day, he used to distribute it all back to people. He never had a bank account. So he says that is what he learned from the sun. And he says you should never indulge in excessive bodily affection. Otherwise, you will have to experience great suffering. So he goes on to talk about the story of a pigeon. It's a very short story. Basically, he says there were two pigeons, and the pigeons were very attached to each other, but it was a bodily attachment. And then they have baby pigeons, and they are still in the mode of attachment. One day when they are out, the hunter comes, and the hunter throws a net and catches the baby pigeons. When the mother comes and sees what has happened, she's so emotionally carried away that she can't think clearly. She goes and jumps on the net to talk to her babies, not understanding that only captures her also. Now the daddy pigeon comes along. He sees that his wife pigeon and baby pigeons are on the net. Same. The bodily attachment makes him so emotional that he can't think. And he also goes, he can already see that his wife is also stuck in the net. But his senses are not working. His brain is not working, because it's the bodily attachment creating so much emotion that he also jumps on the net and asks his wife, what happened? And the hunter is very happy. He's like, I caught so many birds, and the other two birds came themselves to me. So the hunter catches everybody. So he says that is a lesson, that attachment shouldn't disturb our ability to think clearly. And then he says that if at any time food is not available, then a saintly person should fast. They should accept that situation also peacefully. No food, I will just fast. And they should understand that it is by God's arrangement. And he says that I learned from a python. So apparently a python, a python has to swallow food. So a python is not a hunter like a lion or a tiger. The python waits. It waits for the food to come to it, but it doesn't always come. So when food doesn't come, apparently the python can fast for days at an end. So he says that I learned from the python. So I don't get disturbed if I'm hungry. And he says, just as the honeybee takes nectar from all the flowers, big and small, an intelligent being must take the essence from various scriptures. What an analogy. And then the most controversial example, I want to clear that. So he also says there was a prostitute named Pingala in Videha, the kingdom of Videha. She was dressed up and waiting for a customer until midnight, but nobody came. And so she got very upset. So what she did when she got upset that nobody was coming to her, she got upset, so she went home and she started focusing on God. She said, I'm upset, nobody is coming, so I would rather sit at home and focus on God. And eventually she enjoyed that experience more, and her focus for God kept growing, and she eventually became a saintly person. So the lesson, he says, is whenever you catch yourself craving for sensual gratification, any kind of sense gratification, replace it with thoughts of God. We have already studied it. Krishna has already said that before. So he says, because if you try to fulfill those sense gratifications, it's only going to land you in trouble. It's only going to cause suffering in the long run. It is prayer. So these are some of the examples I have taken. There are other examples. He speaks about those animals which we already spoken about, Matanga, Kuranga, Meena. So that lesson is already clear. And then we come to the final shloka of the chapter in Sankhya Yoga, where Krishna officially announces that, very encouraging what Krishna says. He says this goal of evolution, spiritual evolution, he says it is available to every human being. There is no restriction on who can achieve and who cannot achieve. He says it is available to everybody. So much so, he says, you keep practicing, you keep striving for it. Krishna says, if you attain the state of Sthitaprajna, even at the time of your death, let us say it takes you your entire lifetime of practice, and by the time you reach that stage, you are dying. He says, even at the time of death, if you reach that stage, liberation is guaranteed. Now just imagine what will be our situation if we achieve the state when we are fit and fine. Right? So let us all practice what we have learned. Very important. Practice is more important. Theory is not that important. And let us seek Krishna's mercy to help us reach the final destination in our lifetime, current lifetime. It's possible. Krishna has said it's possible. So let's keep up the Josh. So I think with that, we can conclude the longest chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2. It's also the most condensed chapter, very, very powerful chapter, because Krishna is condensing everything. From chapter 3 to chapter 17, Krishna will then elaborate on each aspect of what he has spoken. He will go deeper, and it will be less intense. It will be more fun. It will be a nice journey for us. So once again, thank you all so much for your association and satsanga. Very grateful. So I think we can all thank Krishna for letting us complete chapter 2 without interruptions. Thank you, Krishna. Hare Krishna. So with that, I can open the floor. If you have any suggestions, tips, inputs, criticisms, everything is welcome.
Prabhuji, do you think that to achieve the state of Sthitaprajna, it is, how should I say like that? That everybody can't achieve it. You get that state only by the grace of God, if He blesses you.
Sthitaprajna, anybody can achieve. That's what Krishna is saying. Siddha Bhakti is something that comes only by God's grace. But there are some fundamentals that we have to not compromise on. Okay, so one of the fundamentals is our integrity. So these are the things that have been taught in Sanatana Dharma. So when we say don't speak lie, why do we say don't lie? Because there is no better way to explain. We cannot understand. So people say if you lie, God will be angry. It's not that God will be angry, so we should not lie. But if we lie, our own internal state becomes inconsistent with the state of the Sthitaprajna state. I mean, how will you reach a pure state if you are impure, right? So just like that, you just have to make sure the fundamentals are being practiced, like integrity, no lying. And if you give a word, you have to keep your word. Very, very important. That is what Rama taught us. Because those things align us with the pure state. Non-violence, Krishna has taught, very important. We are not being non-violent for the benefit of the other person. We are being non-violent for our own benefit. So we have to practice all these things. Detachment, vairagya, and Sthitaprajna state is possible. Krishna himself has said in this sloka, he has said it is available to every human being. It's possible. So Ekansh, you can do it. Just take care of the fundamentals.
That's the tough thing, tough part.
Abhi, if you say school tough hai, then college kaisa jamega? Huh? It's
It is where practice comes in. Everyday practice.
Before practice, what is required is conviction. Do you have the conviction? Fear practice you will do later. Do you believe in this? Do you think this is really your goal? Do you think reaching this goal is what our purpose is? You have to believe. Once the conviction comes, everything will follow. You know, see, this is what happens. People make New Year resolutions because they want to look like Bruce Lee. You know, so they are like, I'm going to go to the gym, because at that time they are convinced that going to the gym is going to make them look fit like Bruce Lee. So January, usually the gym is most crowded. You know, by end of January, they are looking at their muscle and they are not looking anywhere like Bruce Lee, and the conviction goes away. They start doubting. Doesn't look like it's working, right? So by the time it is March or April, the gym is half empty. By the time it is November, I've seen the gyms are usually empty. You know, so that is what you should not. That is exactly what Krishna was saying in the past few slokas. He was saying, don't get discouraged. Egiye jao. Keep progressing. You are making progress. Just because you can't see it doesn't mean there is no progress. So the conviction should stay. Everything else will come. You will automatically wake up. You will automatically do everything.
Hare Krishna Guruji.
Yes, Asha ji.
Yeah, I suppose today we had to summarize the Pragma 4.
Yes, yes. Yeah, thank you for reminding. So I will thank you so much for reminding. I almost forgot. So before we close chapter 2, I wanted to summarize Pragma 4. Pragma 4 is what we learned, and this is what Krishna has been talking about. So Asha ji, would you like to summarize it?
Yes. So in the last section we saw this Shlokas 61 to 66, and the Pragma 4, we got the Pragma 4, which says that let the thoughts of God and the service to God replace your thoughts of sensory pleasure. So that was the Pragma 4. And we saw some examples where we understood that the sensory pleasure attachments creates difficulties or produces difficulties in our spiritual development. So we saw the example of the great Emperor Bharata, where he had the great or the very big dynasty, which was called as the Bharatavarsha, and he handed it over to the next generation and went on the path of spiritual development. But it happens that he got emotionally attached with the deer, and then how he couldn't be able to meditate properly, and he started the downfall of his spiritual development. So it was a very minute thing, like attachment with the deer. Why I'm saying like minute thing, because if we compare with ourselves, we are attached with too many things. We have not done the king Bharata had this he created this dynasty, but we are happy with our 1000 square feet area, and that too we were not be able to uh, leave this thing. So that's why I'm telling, like, we need to do on the spiritual development we have to do many things. So problems are like sensory attachment. The Krishna is telling us the problem and the solution as well. The problem is like, because the sensory attachment leads to the lust, which uh, leads to the anger. Then it is leading us towards the delusion. Delusion means being very much attached to the opinions which we are created. And when we are in the state of delusion, at that time it is very difficult to see the facts, what is the truth, because we are very attached with our own opinions, and which is leading towards the damaged memory, and it is impacting our intelligence, and here it is the downfall of a person. So this is the problem, and Krishna is telling us the solution as well. Krishna is only telling us that definitely it is not easy. Like, problem is not with the sensory objects. It is like, whenever we start contemplating upon, thinking upon those sensory objects, that is the problem. So once our attention is caught by some such a sensory objects, it is difficult to fight. Definitely, it is difficult to fight against that thoughts. But what we can do is, we can replace those thoughts with the thoughts of God or the service to the God. So because Krishna is telling us, like, because it doesn't matter what you say, like, I want or I don't want. Either way, we land up focusing on the object that we want or we don't want. So trying to fight those thoughts only makes those thoughts stronger. Instead, the trick given by the Krishna is to replace those thoughts with the thoughts of God or the service to the God. Krishna is telling us, like, how human domesticate animals by tying them to the tree or pole to prevent them from running wild. The same way, our senses also need to be domesticated to make sure that they don't run wild. The best way to domesticate our senses is to tie them to the God consciousness. And this is the very effective way to do this. So, focus on the thoughts of the Lord Krishna and tie our senses to the yoke of God consciousness is the key to liberation. That's what we saw in the Pragma 4.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
So
Krishna.
beautiful, so beautifully summarized. Hare Krishna.
Thank you
Thank you so much, Asha ji. Really appreciate the very nice, concise summarization. Thanks once again. Vidya ji, you were saying something?
I was trying to ask if Pragma 4 is, so what is the Sthitaprajna Lakshanani? Is that what it is in short?
Correct.
So it's just the single line to say that keep your senses under control.
Yes.
Yeah.
And how to do it is also there in that pragma. Replace it by thoughts of God. Replacement is the trick, basically. Because we spoke about the example of wild elephants. Those elephants, they have very powerful trunks, but those trunks can't be quiet. They have to keep plucking something, catching something, hitting something. So what the villagers do, they don't try to control the trunk. They just give a piece of wood, a useless piece of wood, and ask the elephant to carry it. So now the elephant is busy carrying the wood, so it is not doing anything else. Just like that, you cannot control the mind like that. So just replace it with thoughts of God so that it is busy. So yeah. Excellent. Super happy that we finished this chapter 2 so nicely. And feel free, the forum is also yours. If you have any more questions, you can drop it there. Next week, I would like to have the second part of the revision, second chapter. We had revision for the first half. Let us have the revision for the second half. And I'm going to solicit volunteers. Suchita, Ekansh. Okay, Alapji, Dipali, Rajesh, excellent. Maybe I will volunteer a couple of you myself. I'm going to volunteer Ashaji also. Ashaji, you gave such a nice summary. You should volunteer to be part of the thing.
Sure, sir.
Okay.
Yes, yes.
And is that Miss Gaurav?
You're on mute.
You're on mute.
Yeah, my name is Monica.
Hello, Monica ji. Hope
Hello.
this is making sense, what we are studying.
Yeah, I got it what we did today. I also have my Bhagavad Gita I bought from India.
Very
And
nice.
yeah, I got to know like we need to control our senses and replace by thoughts of God.
Thank you for joining the satsang. Thank you for being visible also.
It was
Really
such a
appreciate
nice
that.
success. So
Yeah, I
you're
was saying-
asking to participate, right? For the next, like everyone is raising hand. What do we need to do in that?
You mean in revision?
No, everyone is raising the hand, right? For volunteering. So what we have to do in that?
This is for the revision. So what happens is whoever raises their hands, they're all part of the revision. So they will get questions, they will prepare answers, and in the next session, they will answer the questions that we are asking.
It's a revision of what we already did in chapter second, right?
Yes, the second half of
Okay.
chapter second, starting from
Okay, before
verse 50.
starting chapter third.
Yes, before starting chapter 3, we will do
That's
revision.
good. I will also revise it.
Awesome, awesome. So I will include you also in that. You have all the notes, you have the links to my website
Yeah.
also. So it will be a very nice thing. And the next chapter is going to be extremely interesting and very, very relevant because it is Karma Yoga. And that is kind of one of the biggest emphasis that Krishna had in second chapter. So third chapter is going to be interesting as well. So let's continue this journey. Sujata ji, are you also volunteering or shall I volunteer you?
I will volunteer.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you. So I will create the usual group for revision and I will start sharing the questions there. Okay. So see you all next week. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.